Have you ever met a penguin who wanted to fly? No, really fly like flap flap, zoom zoom. Through the clouds kind of fly? Well, meet Percy, a plump little penguin from the chilly town of Chillington, who was convinced he wasn't meant to waddle like the others. He was born to soar. While most penguins were happily sliding on their bellies, flapping around fish parties, and doing synchronized swimming like icy ballerinas, Percy would sit with sparkly eyes glued to the sky, watching the seagulls swoop and swirl like feathery superheroes. "That's it," he declared one morning, wearing a salad bowl on his head like a pilot helmet. "I'm going to be the first penguin in the history of ever to fly." And oh boy, did Percy try. His first attempt at flying involved jumping off a snowy bump while flapping his flippers like an out-of-control pancake. Spoiler alert. He didn't fly, but he did invent the world's first penguin-powered snow dive. Percy mumbled through a mouthful of snow. "Maybe I need equipment." So began Operation Cardboard Wings. Percy snuck into the recycling pile, pulled out old fish boxes, tied some seagull feathers on with seaweed strings, and strapped everything to his flippers like a wobbly superhero. "Watch out, Sky. Here I come," he cried, launching himself off an icy hill, only to belly flop straight into the behind of a grumpy walrus named Wally. Was that a snowball or a snack? Wally groaned, blinking sleepily. "Sorry, Mr. Wally," Percy squeaked, popping out of the snow with one wing still glued to his face. But Percy wasn't even close to giving up. Because when penguins dream, they dream big. Next came the balloon liftoff plan. Percy traded a shiny shell collection with a traveling puffin for 6 squeaky balloons, red, blue, yellow, and one that looked suspiciously like a pineapple. He tied them around his belly, waddled to the edge of a cliff, and began to rise like a fluffy marshmallow on a string. "I'm fly-eyeing WHOA," he screamed, as a blast of wind swept him into the air, and straight into Mrs. Flufftail's snowman, exploding it into a blizzard of carrot, scarf, and buttons. "Oops," Percy squeaked, dangling from the last balloon string. Well, that escalated quickly. Still determined, he built a glider out of fish bones and driftwood. It smelled like week-old tuna but looked sorta legendary, according to Percy. He named it the Sky Slider 3000, climbed to the top of Icy Bump Peak, and zoomed down the hill screaming, "To infinity and beyond," only to crash land into a giant pile of seaweed, where he got tangled like spaghetti in kelp sauce. Lying there with sea snails crawling over his nose, Percy groaned. "Maybe, just maybe I wasn't built for the sky." Right then, wise old Grandpa Pebbles waddled over, belly jiggling like a jelly pudding. "Percy, lad," he chuckled. "Why in the icy fish flakes are you trying to fly like a bird when you're built like a torpedo?" Percy sniffled. "Because the sky looks so free, and I just want to feel what it's like to soar." Grandpa Pebbles gave a wink. "Then stop looking up and start looking down. The sky isn't the only place to fly, you know." Percy blinked. "You mean the ocean?" Grandpa nodded. "Exactly. You don't need wings, boy. You've got flippers and the biggest underwater sky in the world." That very evening, Percy waddled to the edge of the ocean, took a deep breath and shouted, "Okay, water, let's boogie." He dove in with a splash, and suddenly, zoom, like magic, he rocketed through the sea like a turbocharged fish with racing stripes. He twirled, flipped, danced through coral reefs, and left trails of sparkly bubbles behind him like fireworks underwater. He zipped past wide-eyed jellyfish, dodged a curious dolphin, and leapt into the air with a somersault that would have made a flying fish jealous. "I'm flying," he shouted joyfully. "I'm flying underwater." The other penguins watched, beaks wide open. "Is that Percy? He's flying in the sea." From that day on, Percy became the coolest penguin in Chillington. Not for copying the seagulls, but for discovering his own way to soar. He gave underwater flying lessons to penguin chicks, invented a move called the bubble jet loop, and wore his old balloon strings as a soggy superhero cape. Even Wally the walrus gave him a proud little wink. Percy had finally learned that you don't need wings to fly. All you need is a dream, a splash of courage, and your very own sky. And every time a little penguin waddled up and asked, "How do I fly like you?" Percy would smile, puff out his chest, and say, "You already can. You just have to find your kind of sky."